Okay, good morning, everyone. And I am so happy to welcome Sarah Hani, who is the head of care at Maersk. I used to work in shipping, and I know Maersk is one of the biggest shipping companies in the world. So it's very exciting to have you here today. We are going to start sharp at 10. But before that, just a few things. So you see this chat box on your right hand corner, or if you're using the phone at the bottom, you see the chat box. So if you have any questions, anything you want to say, any comments, you can use the chat box. If you are here, say hi to us. Oh, hi there, Debbie. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Good morning to you. And thanks for joining us. And I want to talk a little bit about why we are doing this today. We run this series called the Work in Progress series. So, Work in Progress is where we bring professionals from different industries to come in and talk a little bit about what they do currently. No issue is as current as the coronavirus vaccine. That's why we're running a series working on coronavirus vaccines. Last week, we actually have Dr. Kumita Devadas talk about how COVID vaccines were made and tested and so on. But once it's tested and produced, it has to go from manufacturing, the place where it is made, to you. And how does that happen? Somebody has to make that happen. And this is where Sarah is going to talk about that. So the Work in Progress series, we are going to have more series coming up after this, also about professionals talking about what they're currently working on. And Work in Progress series is brought to you by WeCan, which is an educational program where we bring professionals from different industries to share their skills and their experience with you. So this is our way of trying to give students more exposure into the different professions that are out there. If you have so today is a good chance for you to talk to Sarah if you're interested in what she's doing. There's a good chance for you to ask her questions that otherwise you may not have a chance to be able to ask. So without further ado, now we have lost Sarah. Oh no! So we want to get Sarah to get started. But before that, let's see who else here. Oh, hi Hakim. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. And okay, we have Sarah back in. Okay. Hi. I'm thankful I don't have to do the presentation. Okay. All right. So without further ado, I am going to add Sarah into this. And so Sarah, take it away. If any of you students have questions, comments, just feel free to put it on the comment box. During the break, we will have Q&A and Sarah will answer your questions. Okay? Sarah, take it away.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, everyone. So I'll just share a little bit about my background first before we go into the discussion today. So my name is Sarah Hani, and I'm from Malaysia, and I live in Kuala Lumpur with my family. Um, so a little bit about my background. I actually studied in a university in Malaysia as well. I grew up in Penang. I went to local schools in Penang, Methodist Girls' School in primary and secondary, and then I wanted to pursue my education and was more interested in pursuing it in Malaysia back then. So I applied for local universities, and I was very, very happy because I found that University Malaysia Sabah actually was one of the pioneers that offered marine science as a subject. And that was one of the first times I realized that, you know, becoming a marine biologist was such a possibility, which I've never considered or never really thought about. When we grow up, our parents are like, oh, would you like to be a doctor, a lawyer? probably an accountant, and study, subjects related to finance, to science. And so marine biology or marine science was something that was never really discussed in school, or was it presented as an option? So when I was going through the list of subjects offered, or degree courses offered in the university, I was actually super pleasantly surprised, and decided to go for it because it sounded really fun, and it sounded like something I would really enjoy growing up in Penang. So I'm a very typical island girl. We go to the beaches all the time. We know how to swim. We go to the sea. So it was really exciting to think of it as a possible career opportunity. And University Sabah, Malaysia Sabah, if you haven't been there, I think it's one of the most beautiful campuses in Malaysia. It's really beautiful. It's right at the cliff of the Andaman Sea, and the North Sea. And we have so many beautiful beaches and islands, and the marine life under the sea is actually one of the best in the world. So, studying marine science, I was able to choose my specialty either in biology, in chemistry, as a specialization in the degree. So initially, I wanted to study marine biology because everyone's heard of marine biologists, right? Especially um, outside of Malaysia. Um, so while trying to learn more about marine biology, I discovered that marine chemistry is actually equally exciting, or for me, it was even more exciting. So I actually specialized in marine chemistry in the final year of my degree in the university. So marine chemistry was a little bit about studying medicinal purposes, or medicinal qualities of some of the marine, or the creatures living in the sea. And I chose to study the medicinal qualities of soft corals. So the picture here, the third picture on the right, is actually a beautiful picture of some soft corals. You guys might be familiar seeing how Nemo, the cartoon, Nemo is an anemone fish that actually lives in soft corals, right? So I studied medicinal qualities of soft corals because apparently soft corals never got sick. They do die because of the change of climate that causes the sea to be too hot, and they can't thrive under those conditions. But they never die because of diseases. And diseases on soft corals was something quite unheard of. So it was a study that I chose to take. And so actually, my research with my professor has gone into clinical trial, stage 2 right now, to see what the compositions, or what's inside the soft corals that we as humans can extract out, and see how to make them into medicine for humans, since soft corals don't really have diseases. So they must have something really special, some really special soldiers, as Dr. Kumita explained last week, in their bodies that make them really strong and don't die of diseases. So that was a really interesting journey in my degree. And after that, so the choice of career was to either continue down that road into research, and maybe be part of my professor's team right now who's taking the study further. But I decided that maybe research was not for me. I spent a whole year of my final year in university in the lab. So after having fun, going out diving, after finding all the coral species that I wanted to study, and then the 1 year was more of research in the lab. So that wasn't really something I imagine I could do for the rest of my life. And really hats off to people who can, like Dr. Kumita. But I decided to then find a different career journey in my life. So one of the things I was looking for after graduating from university was finding a company that was very interesting to me. So, being a young and fresh graduate, I did a lot of research on the internet. I Googled, what kind of companies were available in Malaysia, what kind of companies that with my degree in marine science, and with my skill sets, and with my dreams of traveling around the world, what kind of companies or what kind of job opportunities were out there. So I did a lot of research, and one of the companies that I came across was the company I currently work in, which is Maersk. And it's actually a Danish company which is headquartered in Denmark, in Copenhagen, in Denmark. So, one of the things that attracted me to this company was I was reading about the company culture and the company values. So, culture is something like what the company lives and breathes about. And if we relate it to ourselves, so if I'm a Malay person, so I have some Malay cultures where, on Hari Raya, we cook this kind of food, we go visit our parents. And this is how we greet one another by, extending our greeting with our hands and salam. So these are kind of cultures that I was looking for in this company. So the company Maersk had a very interesting culture where they put people, they put their employees, they put their staff very high up their priority list, and that means they take care of everyone who works in Maersk as a main priority. And also the other cultures were being humble all the time. So in while we are working in the company, everyone is humble. While we're working in the company, everyone is very open. There's a very huge open door policy, which means anyone can discuss anything with each other with respect. And there is no such thing as hierarchies. That means there's no levels or different layers of the organization or the company. And these are some of the qualities that attracted me to explore even more with this company. And so after going for six rounds of interview, to be honest, I managed to get into the company, and I've been there ever since. So it's been about 13 years with the company. And the second picture is just to show you where the tiny little Denmark is. So it's this red little island right at the south of Norway or Sweden. Um, and it's a really small country, but it's a really very beautiful country. So if you ever get the chance, do visit Denmark. This is our office in Denmark. This is our headquarters, and I've been very lucky to have had the opportunity to actually go there and even work there. And this is one of the qualities that I really like about the company, because they're very open for the people who work there to travel and to experience different cultures with the various offices we have around the world at Maersk. Yeah. So this is just a little bit about how I got to where I am today. And now let's get to understand a little bit more about what Maersk does. So, hi, Mustard Seed. So the company is actually called AP Moller Maersk. AP stands for Arnold Peter. It's actually the name of the founder of the company. So Arnold Peter Moller Maersk is the name of the founder, and he founded this company, which actually started out as a shipping company. And over the years, over 100 years now, it's grown into a global integrated logistics company. So, what is a global company? Global company means that we are very present. We have offices, over 125 offices around the world. So, we have office in Malaysia, office in Denmark. We even have office in Ethiopia in Africa. We have offices in Australia. We have office in Brazil. We have offices in 125 different locations around the world and growing. Integrated logistics. So, what integrated logistics means is there's a huge term logistics is such a huge landscape or avenue, and there's so many parts of logistics. So I'm showing you the pictures here, where a ship is also part of a logistics service, right? We use we put things on the ocean and we carry things on the ocean is also a small part of logistics. The trucks that you see on the road that carry things from one place to another is also another small part of logistics. Airplanes carrying passengers or carrying cargo. So we have airplanes that deliver, like DHL Express that carries our mail, that carries boxes, or maybe your orders from Shopee or Lazada coming from China. This is another small part of logistics. And then we have the warehousing where we store all our goods to wait for you to buy your items on Lazada or on Shopee. And we store them in things called warehouses. That is also a small part of logistics. Um, some companies do packing. So they take small items, like for example, your iPhone, they put your iPhone into the box and then they wrap the box and they store the box. So picking and packing is also a small part of logistics. And then, of course, we have the terminals. So these are the ports at the seaside where the ships come to berth or dock, and there's so many activities going on at the seaside to take your cargo off the ships to put it on the land. So this is another small part of logistics. So AP Moller Maersk, the company I work in, has integrates. So integrates meaning we do all these various logistics that you see on the screen here, and that's why it's called an integrated logistics company. So we own ships, we own containers, we also own trucks, we also own air cargo, so we also own some airplanes, we also own some warehouses, we also own some terminals, and one of our terminal is actually right here in Malaysia, in Johor. So it's called the Tanjung Pelepas Terminal, where Maersk owns a high percentage of the terminal. And therefore, Malaysia is a huge part of the Maersk company in helping us with the logistics here in Malaysia. Okay. Do we have any questions so far, Mei? Did you get to dive a lot during your course? Yes, actually, especially in my second year in university, where I had to go and find the soft corals I wanted to do my research on. I dove quite a bit all over the ocean or the sea in Sabah. I went to various islands to really find which species of soft coral that I wanted to focus my research on. But other than that, I also help out my other friends who were diving to find their research species. So I have a friend who was looking for sea worms and sea slugs. And sea slugs are actually really colorful and beautiful in the sea, opposite to the kind of sea worm, the worms or the slugs that we find on land. So it was really interesting to really find all these various species in the sea. And I really, really had fun. Thank you for your question. Yay, diving. Yes, Hakeem. How did you think to search for companies based on their culture? It sounds like you were looking for something specific. Thank you for that question, Hakeem. Yes, so while at university, apart from studying and apart from doing my research and studying marine chemistry, I actually it was a part of my journey to find myself. So it was the first time I was away from home. As I said, I lived in Penang where my family was, and moving all the way to Sabah by myself. It was actually the first time I have to be a big girl and take care of myself. So I didn't have my mommy or daddy to be with me. I had to learn how to do my laundry. I had to learn how to make sure that I have food either by buying or cooking it myself. I have to learn how to live with friends in our hostel or in the campus. I have to learn how to get around by myself by taking the bus to my faculty or to my school, and shopping for my clothes myself, and also going to the airport by myself to come home all the way to Penang to see my family. So through this journey, I actually, learned to be independent, and therefore I was very conscious or started paying attention to different cultures that everybody had. Everybody came from different backgrounds, and we were all different people. We're all different. We've all come from different sort of values in our families or different sort of way of thinking. And so I was very aware of this. And I also joined international debate teams while I was at university. So that's one of my passion as well. So I got to travel to different other universities. I went to Thailand and met so many people from different universities all over the world who came to a university in Thailand for a debate competition. And so I was starting to see, and mix with people coming from different countries. And so when we talk about culture, and we share insights towards, what kind of person we'd like to be when we grow up, and what are the different companies out there. And some companies are, they pay a lot of attention towards work. Some companies pay a lot of attention to building the knowledge and building the skills of their people. And so all these kind of different conversations and thinkings that I have actually led me to specifically look for companies that have similar values as me, similar cultures as me, or cultures that I'm interested to grow in. And that's how I started researching about company values and culture. So thank you for that question, Hakeem. So the main takeaway from there is going to university or going to school is not about just getting A's on your exam and studying, but it's also about building your own skills, and learning new things, and paying attention to other people and learning how to interact, and also opening up our eyes to what other things are out there as well. Okay. All right, so then let's continue with the topic today. So, what I want to share with you is cold chain logistics. So, cold, the word cold, right? One of the parts of logistics is also cold chain logistics. Now, what is cold chain logistics? So, I put a picture of an ice cream cone here with lots and lots of ice cream scoops that makes me really hungry right now. Um, but cold chain logistics is it can be really very simply explained using ice cream. Okay, so what I want you to start thinking about is, where does your ice cream come from, right? So when you go to a store and you get your ice cream, do you think about, hey, where did this ice cream come from? How did it get to the store, right? Who made the ice cream and who brought the ice cream to the store? Um, And what temperature is the ice cream stored at, right? So ice cream cannot be chilled in the fridge, it will melt. Ice cream cannot be kept outside of the fridge, it will also melt. Ice cream has to be kept in a freezer, and the texture, to retain the texture or to keep the flavors really yummy, we have to keep it at a certain temperature, right? So start thinking about all these things. And how does your ice cream get transported? So, how did your ice cream get from the factory of wherever it was made? And how did it get to the store where you're buying it? Right? And how, along the way from the factory to the store that you're buying it from, how does it stay frozen the whole time? And therefore, we can start thinking about, who are the people involved in making sure that our yummy ice cream stays really, really fresh, really, really frozen, delicious, and very safe to eat. So all these different the questions is actually pointing towards cold chain logistics. Okay, so I'll try and explain it a little bit more about how the ice cream gets transported and then how we can apply this learning to vaccines. And different food items or different things that we consume or actually just like ice cream has to stay in a certain temperature. So what I'm going to share with you right now is if you see a scale of temperatures where it varies from warm and dry up there to cold and really cold. So, for example, wine has to be stored and transported at 16 degrees Celsius. Bananas have to be stored and transported at 13 degrees Celsius so that the banana stays really fresh, really yummy, and safe to eat. Um, Things like garlic, avocados, oranges, and onions and grapes actually have to be stored at 10 degrees Celsius. So that's a little bit cold and like fridge, the temperature in your fridge to be transported and stored so that when it gets to the supermarket, it's really yummy and it's really fresh and it's safe to eat. And then when you buy frozen meat in the freezer section of the supermarket, the frozen meat actually had to be stored at a minus 18 degrees so that it's really safe to eat. And when you cook it, it's still yummy and fresh. Yeah. And then things get colder, like frozen fish has to be stored at a minus 25 degrees Celsius so that there's no bacteria growth on them and they're safe to eat. And when we thaw and when we cook them, it's still yummy and it still tastes really good. And then we have ice cream at the end of the spectrum at minus 35 degrees. That's really cold. Um, and so to transport ice cream from the factory, it has to maintain at 30 minus 35 degrees all the way until it gets to the store, like your Baskin Robbins. Okay? And just a fun fact, Baskin Robbins is actually one of the customers at Maersk. So they actually use Maersk to transport all the ice cream all over the world so we can enjoy them at the stores near our house. All right? So imagine transporting the ice cream, right? This is our yummy ice cream that was just made at the factory. Now, how does it get stored? The best way to get stored is in a freezer at minus 35 degrees, right? But how do we then keep the freezer at minus 35 degrees? You have to keep the plug or the electricity connected to the refrigerator so that it stays at minus 35 degrees all the time. But then how does it get transported? So imagine we get a man, right? An uncle, and the uncle needs to transport the ice cream, which is now inside the freezer, inside the fridge, and he needs to keep that freezer or fridge plugged in all the time. So imagine him putting the freezer on his back. How heavy would that be? And remember, the freezer needs to always be plugged into the electricity so that the ice cream is always at minus 35 degrees and it doesn't melt. And then he transports the freezer with, let's say, an electricity that he can actually bring along with him um, on his motorbike or on the back of his motorbike with the electricity that he can bring along with, and then bring it to our little ice cream shop where we can go and ask mommy and daddy buy us ice cream, right? So this just imagining how this uncle is helping us transport the ice cream from the factory to the store so we can enjoy it at its best is so difficult, and it's almost impossible, if not really impossible, right? But this is how we actually transport ice cream, of course, without using our poor uncle, right? So the same concept applies as well when we transport the COVID-19 vaccines that Dr. Kumita was explaining to us about last week. So the various vaccines that are produced by the different companies are also stored at different temperatures. So if we look here, the ones coming from AstraZeneca has to be stored at a between 0 to minus 10 degrees Celsius, which is almost like your ice cream temperature in the freezer, right? The vaccine that is produced by this company called Moderna has to be stored at minus 20 degrees, which is almost like the same temperature we saw the chickenpox vaccine. Um, and then the ones that are produced by Pfizer, which is the ones that we are mostly getting in Malaysia, it has to be stored exactly at a minus 70 degrees, or a range between minus 60 to minus 80 degrees. So that's even colder than ice cream, right? And it's actually one of the coldest item to store and transport ever in this world, in regards to food and in regards to different other vaccines that are available. So, what does this mean? This means that we have to have the technology or the freezer that is able to store and keep this vaccine at a minus 70 degrees Celsius at all times so that the vaccine is safe, so that the vaccine is not contaminated, has no bacteria growth, and is not spoiled. And up to the part where the doctor gives us the vaccine on our arm, it is still very much top quality and abides to the standards that Dr. Kumita shared with us last week. So, how does somebody transport and make sure we keep the vaccine at minus 70 degrees Celsius at every single time throughout the process of the manufacturing of the vaccine? So, in the vaccines factory, and which is being manufactured in China. So, how does it get from China to Malaysia? So, it has to go on a plane or maybe on the sea, on a ship. So the airplane or the ship has to have a freezer that is able to keep the vaccine at a minus 70 degrees. And then once it comes to Malaysia, then it has to be stored in a very cold place at minus 70 degrees Celsius as well. And then it has to, from the warehouse, the vaccine needs to get to our local clinics or local hospitals, and it has to go in a truck on the road. You can't fly, you can't put the vaccine in an airplane or in a ship on land. So it has to go in a truck. So then the truck has to have a freezer that can keep it at a minus 70 degrees at all times. So the freezer on the truck has to have electricity on it, right? And then once it gets to the hospital, then the hospital has to have a freezer that is minus 70 degrees Celsius as well. And then from the hospital, probably like a hospital in the University Malaya or in a hospital in Sungai Buloh, for example, they need to distribute the vaccine to the clinics near our house, right, or the clinics around our area. And so the vaccine has to go in a car or in a van or in a truck. And that truck or car or van has to also have a freezer that is minus 70 degrees Celsius or a container that can carry the vaccine in minus 70 degrees Celsius to make sure that it stays at that temperature when it gets to the clinics. And then once it gets to the clinics, then for some of our friends who live in the villages or who live in kampongs or who live really far away from the clinics, there may be a need to transport the vaccine on a motorbike, just like our uncle earlier, right? So that motorbike also has to have a freezer or a portable freezer that can maintain the vaccine temperature at a minus 70 degrees Celsius. So you can see how complicated the journey of this one little vaccine that gets into our arm at the end of the day It has gone through so many different modes of transportation. It's gone on a plane, it's gone on a ship, it's gone in a truck, it stayed in a freezer in the hospital, and it's gone in a car, and most probably it's gone on a motorbike as well, all in a short span of time. So that it's really safe for us to receive the vaccine, and the vaccine works and activates all our soldiers to fight the COVID-19 virus, right? So, how do I explain this, or how can we imagine how all these different facilities or transportation look like? So, let me share with you. So, this is how a cold storage or warehouse looks like. There's such thing as cold storage. Now, some of you may know the supermarket called cold storage. It's also kind of named or inspired after this kind of warehouses. So, cold storage warehouse is a warehouse that is specifically made to be cold at a certain temperature, depending on what we want to store in the in the warehouse. So if it's a vaccine warehouse or a vaccine storage facility, and we are carrying the Pfizer vaccine at minus 70 degrees, then all the aircons and all the freezers in the warehouse has to be at minus 70 degrees at all times. So that means anyone who works in the warehouse in this cold storage has to always be in really, really, warm clothing that can make sure that they don't get sick, and they can work in a minus 70 degrees Celsius environment. So if it's an ice cream cold storage warehouse, then the ice cream cold storage, the whole building aircon would be at a minus 35, so that all the ice cream is stored in there, and you can see all the people who work there in the winter gear that can keep them really warm and let them work in this environment, right? So this is what a cold storage looks like. What is a refrigerated container? So remember, we had to truck the vaccines on the back of a truck. So in Maersk and many other shipping companies, actually, we have containers that are refrigerated containers, or we call them reefers. So you imagine a truck that has a built-in freezer or built-in fridge inside, right? And this is the picture I can show you, where you can see the thermostat or the generator of the fridge or freezer built inside this storage box. So these storage boxes, you can sometimes see them on the road, on the back of trucks, on prime movers, like the Transformer prime mover. He's actually a prime mover that carries container trucks or containers. And sometimes you can see them moving on the road, but some of them may not have a refrigerator or a generator at the back, because they are not refrigerated containers, but they are dry containers. So we have some dry containers that carry dry goods, dry goods like your clothes, dry goods like your shampoo, which do not need to be refrigerated. And then we have special refrigerated containers like reefers that has a built-in generator and a thermostat to control the temperature of what's inside the container. And this can be carried and put on a truck and put on a ship. So like the picture here in a terminal, where all the reefers are stacked up one another, and they are always plugged in at all times. So our terminals at the port always have a special area dedicated to reefer containers, where we have lots and lots and lots of plugs for them to be always plugged in and set at the temperature that is meant for the storage of the goods inside. So if you're carrying the vaccine, then these special containers can actually be set at minus 70 degrees Celsius, right? And this is how we basically get to transport them on the ship and on the truck, to carry them to our hospitals and to bring them from China all the way to Malaysia, or from anywhere in the world, because they can control, or they can sustain the temperature as long as they're plugged in. And on our ships, we have special plugs and special areas for these containers to be on our ships as well. So cold stuffing is another thing that I wanted to share with you. So imagine in the cold warehouse earlier, right, where we are storing all our cold vaccines at a minus 70 degrees Celsius. And it's really, really cold inside. And imagine if you take that vaccine out and you want to put it on a truck. But if the truck is outside, where the temperature is really, really, really hot in Malaysia, then the vaccine is exposed to the heat outside, and therefore it can go bad and it will be rejected, and we can't use that vaccine anymore, right? So, what has to be done is something called cold stuffing. So, cold stuffing is, as you can see here, where the reefer containers, the refrigerated containers that has been set at minus 70 degrees Celsius as well, that is sitting on the prime mover truck, reverse all the way back into the factory or the cold storage warehouse. And how it looks like is when it reverses back, then it's in the inside. So the back of the container, when we open the container doors, it's inside the cold storage factory or warehouse where it's also at minus 70 degrees Celsius. So there's no difference in temperature, and the vaccine is not exposed to outside when they push the cargo or push the truck of push the containers, small containers carrying the truck, or in this case here, I showed the ice cream, directly into the refrigerated container at the same temperature. And this is really, really important so it doesn't get exposed to a different temperature or heat that can cause variation in the vaccine or variation in the ice cream or variation in the frozen fish or even variation in the grapes, right? So all these small variations in temperature can actually make our food or make our medicine go bad. And then it's not safe to eat anymore. So this is one of the methods that we do really, really carefully to make sure that we cold stuff, right? So the term is cold stuff. And as you can see at the bottom here, this is the minus 70 degrees container that is now inside. The back is inside the minus 70 degrees cold storage. And we open the doors and you can see the cold air inside. And the guy who's working in the cold storage is actually in the middle of transferring the goods from the cold storage warehouse into the cold truck. Okay. Do we have any questions at this point of time? Hmm. So thank you, Huisim. What if by chance a malfunction occurs and the temperature changes? That's really, really very, very good thinking and a very good question. So this actually happens sometimes, right? Sometimes we do find malfunctions happening, just like all our other appliances at home. Sometimes our fridge doesn't work, or sometimes our oven doesn't work, or sometimes our phone doesn't work, and that really happens from time to time. And the temperature will be affected if there's a malfunction. So what happens is we actually um, have a monitoring system or a temperature control system that I can see in my laptop or I can see in my computer, and the captain of the ship can see at all times while he's transporting all the many cold refrigerated containers at the back of the ship. The truck drivers can also check the temperature setting on the outside of the refrigerated containers when they're moving the truck. So there's so many systems or so many technology that allows us to actually monitor and make sure that a malfunction does not happen. But what if a malfunction actually happens? Then what happens is we try to quickly reboot the system in within a few seconds of time, and or in some unfortunate cases where it's not being able to done, then unfortunately the goods inside are just gone spoiled, right? So we do have instances where when we open the refrigerated truck when it arrives, that all the bananas have gone bad, or we have all the fish that have gone bad. We have the grapes that have bacteria growing on it, etc. So there's so many factors that can actually cause this malfunction. It could be that the cold stuffing was not done right, right? So there was some heat transfer, or the truck wasn't properly inside the cold storage, or it could be the generator itself of the refrigerated containers that had a malfunction, or it could be while it's on the ship, then the electricity went off. So there's various reasons, but we always have a emergency generator built into the refrigerated reefers, so that if for any instance, even in 1 second, the electricity is shut off, then the backup generator can be switched on automatically and maintain the same temperature. So it's very, very rare, but it does happen. So what happens when the electricity just goes off, right? For a few seconds. So just like at home, when we suddenly have an electricity outage or the power went out, if you do not open the refrigerator door, if you don't open your freezer at home, and if you don't open your fridge, then the temperature inside there is still able to maintain for a short period of time, right? So if you don't open the fridge for an hour and then the power comes back, you will see that your food is actually still in the same temperature, and your freezer is still your food in your freezer is still frozen, right? So for a reefer container, it depends on the variance of the temperature inside. At minus 70 degrees Celsius, it's really, really so cold inside that even if the electricity is switched off for 30 minutes, it should not affect anything inside because it's really, really cold. So it doesn't move from minus 70 to, let's say, plus 10 in just an hour. So even when we unstuff the container, so when it finally reaches us and we take out the vaccines from the refrigerated containers, it takes about 3 days for that container to go from minus 70 degrees Celsius back to the normal temperature we have right now, which is about plus 28 degrees Celsius. So it takes 3 whole days just to get it back to minus 28 without plugging it in. So we unplug it and let it come back up on its own for 3 days. So with that kind of variation, it's quite safe to say that a small malfunction here and there should not affect, but of course we don't even want that to happen because we want to make sure that our vaccine is safe at all times. So we actually have technology to help us look at that and to see what is the performance or what is the refrigerated reefers temperature at every single second along its way. Thank you for that very good question. All right. So when yeah, Optimus Prime, that's right. Optimus Prime is actually a prime mover which carries trucks. Okay, so back to coal transportation, right? So you can see there's so many different ways to transport the goods, but it always has to be in a storage, in a portable storage that can move, that has always electricity plugged in. So here is what I wanted to share. So at Maersk, we have an app called Captain Peter. Now, Captain Peter is a very, very important captain. He actually is the person, or he's the app that actually monitors and makes sure that our refrigerated containers are always at the temperature that they're supposed to be. And they give our customers, or in this case, if Baskin Robin is transporting the ice cream with us using our refrigerated containers, and Baskin Robbins has Captain Peter on their phone or on the computer, and Baskin Robbins can always open it to see what Captain Peter is saying about the ice cream inside the refrigerated containers, and that it's always at minus 35 degrees, and Captain Peter is doing his job really, really well. Now, if there's any malfunction, Captain Peter will be the first to alert Baskin Robbins and alert Maersk as well that there's something wrong inside the refrigerated container and we need to do something about that very, very fast. So that's how we react really fast and make sure that the malfunction does not affect the condition um, or the quality of whatever is stored inside the refrigerated trucks. So Captain Peter is really, really hardworking. He works 24/7, all day, all night, all the time, 365 days a year. Okay, so this is how a refrigerated truck container is being trucked into the terminal, and this is how we carry them from the terminal and put them onto the ship. And this is the back of the Maersk ship. As you can see, it's a dedicated area just for the refrigerated containers or reefers, where we have so many plugs, right? So you can see it stacks up to 7 different layers of containers, which are all plugged in at all times while it's transported on water. Okay, so any questions at this point? Sarah, what is your job at Maersk? Okay, so what I do at Maersk right now is I take care of all our customers. So I make sure that all our customers, for example, like Baskin Robbins, is very happy that their ice cream is always being transported at the right temperature. There's no malfunction along the way. It arrives in the stores on the same exact day that it's meant to arrive, so that you can always have your 31 flavors available to you, and there's no flavors out of stock. And we make sure that everything is really smooth along the way. And if it's not smooth, then we make sure, or I make sure, that we have a plan B or a backup plan to make sure that we help our customers to get their goods to where it's supposed to be on time, all the time. Thank you for that question, Hakim. Any more questions? Okay, no. Then this is how, in summary, the cold chain logistics actually flow, right? So if we take an example of a farm, right? So, the farm is really the first place, or where everything grows. So this is where your lavender, maybe it's a lavender farm, so that you can get the lavender flavor into your ice cream, or it's a grape farm, or it's an orange farm, or plantation, or vineyard, etc. So this is where everything really starts. The first step into logistics, right? So if you're looking at cold chain logistics, so the word cold here means we're transporting something that requires to be refrigerated or frozen, right? So then a cold chain logistics flow starts all the way from the farm, right? And then we have to transport it to the storage or factory, where they put the ice cream together, and they make the ice cream, and then they store it in the cold warehouse, like I shared. And then we truck it to wherever it needs to get trucked, to the terminal or to the port, and we put this in the refrigerated containers by using cold stuffing at all times. And then we make sure that um, customs give a green light and say it's okay to export this. Everything looks good, the quality is good, the sanitary inspection to make sure that, okay, this ice cream or this vaccine is stored correctly. I can see the refrigerated container, it's correct, minus 70 degrees, everything looks good, you locked it properly, you made sure everything is safe, and then we go on the ship. So the whole time on the ship, it's also plugged in. And then when we reach Malaysia waters, for example, from China to Malaysia, then at the terminal, right? So taking the container down from the ship to the ground, right? And handling and then plug it in really quickly, right? So that the temperature still maintains. Um, and then we go through another round of customs in Malaysia, where the customs comes and checks and makes sure that the goods are correct, and they are the vaccines, and they are minus 70 degrees Celsius, and it's good to go. And then we bring them to the cold storage facility in Malaysia, where it's already standing by at minus 70 degrees Celsius. And then we have cold unstuffing that happens, right? As opposed to cold stuffing into the truck. Now we cold unstuff into the cold storage facilities, and then from there, we wait for the hospitals to say, hey, I need 100 vaccines today. And then we quickly put it on the cold truck, and then we move it to your clinic or your hospital. So this entire flow of all the activities we do, from the farm to when you get your vaccine at the clinic, or when you get your ice cream at the store, is called the cold chain logistics flow. And this is something Maersk can do, and we can do every single one of these things to help to make sure that the transportation is good, food or the quality of the cargo is safe, and you have no worries about getting your vaccines on time. All right. So this is just to give you an insight that the vaccines that we discussed last week in Dr. Kumita's presentation, it doesn't just appear magically in our clinics. It takes a lot of various people to be involved. The vaccine actually goes for long, long trips into different modes of transportation. It sits in different warehouses. It goes through different checks, and every single thing is done to make sure that we get the vaccines on time and make sure that we are all vaccinated and safe from the virus. So this is what cold chain logistics looks like. And cold chain logistics is a really, really small part of logistics. We transport so many different things in logistics. For example, just to share with you, Maersk actually help transport a giraffe, a live giraffe from South Africa to Australia to be put in the Taronga Zoo in Australia. So the giraffe actually went into an open container so it can breathe, and it got transported on the ship. So it went on a bit of journey around the world. Sorry. So it went on quite a bit of a journey around the world, all the way from South Africa, keeping it alive and fed at all times on the ship, all the way down to Taronga to the zoo in Australia. And it's very healthy and alive. And this is also another part of logistics. So there's many different ways we transport goods and help make sure that everything and every living thing and non-living thing is safely arrived. Yes. So that's it from me today. I thank you so much, and I hope you learned something about my job and also what logistics companies do. And to make sure that all the things in our supermarket, in our clinics, in our ice cream store all arrive from wherever it came from in a very good and safe condition. Okay, do we have any questions? Where are the vaccines being shipped from to Malaysia? And which other countries Maersk shipping vaccines to? All right, so the vaccines that we have, I think Pfizer Biotech is coming from factories in China, but Maersk is also right now helping different company brands, different vaccines being shipped all over the world as well. That is manufactured in various countries. So we have some vaccine manufactured in the UK, some vaccine manufactured in China, some vaccine manufactured in the US, and all these vaccines need to get all over the world in a very short span of time so that everybody is safely vaccinated. So Maersk and a lot of other shipping companies and logistics companies are all working together to make sure everybody has a cold storage facility at minus 70 degrees for Pfizer, for example, or minus 20 degrees for Moderna, and the various different cold storage facilities and trucks and reefers and ships to make sure that all the different vaccines go out on time to everybody all over the world. Do we have any other questions?
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah. That was such an interesting talk. I'll let the people who are joining us think of any more questions that you want to ask. In the meantime, I just want to share that this is the Work in Progress series where we bring professionals from different industries to talk about something current that they are doing. And this is a two-part series on coronavirus vaccine. And if you missed the first part of the series, I will share on the chat the first part video that you can check it out. Okay. Also, this video will still be available after the live stream. So you can also share with other people who you think will be interested in. If you have any other questions you want to ask Sarah about her work, feel free. This is the time to do it. And next up on our Work in Progress series is also something very current that a lot of professionals are working on. uh, it is also very urgent and very crucial, and that is on climate change. So we are going to do a 5-part series. There will be a climate researcher, there will be people working on renewable energy, people working on different agriculture practices, all of which to make sure that we reduce our carbon emission to address climate crisis. It's not just about addressing a problem that we're facing, but it's also a great economic opportunity for a lot of different sector and a lot of different people. So do join and hear from the people who are working in this sector to see what are the opportunities out there, what are the jobs that's out there, what are the problems that you can help to solve, because it's something that will affect the younger generation. Okay, I'm going to post the link there. In the meantime, I think we have one more question. So, Sarah?
Ah, how big are your ships? Thank you, Debbie. So Maersk is one of the biggest fleet of ships in the world, and currently the biggest size of the ship we have, if you try to imagine 7 football fields put together next to each other, that's how long and wide the ship is. So that's our currently this is the current biggest size of ship that we have at Maersk.
Okay, great. If we have no more questions, once again, thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your experience. And it's so interesting to learn the ins and outs of what it means to do cold chain logistics. And thank you for bringing the vaccine to us in Malaysia. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Do join us on 30th January for the first part of the climate series. Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.